Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Raylin, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some World of Warcraft Legion. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about Paladin tanks. Uh, I'm not going to go into a super in depth review, mainly because it takes way too much time to explain every last little thing, and thus the video gets to be pretty damn long. And while I am kind of known for long videos, I kind of want to punch in a few shorter ones just so that I can explain a few things and get it out there without boring everybody to death. I am not a hardcore raider anymore. I am a casual player. I have a few friends, and I do 5-man content, low-level mythics, Karazhan, things like that. So don't expect me to go into super hardcore mode with these kind of overviews of the paladin class and tanking in general. Unless everyone kind of wants me to, then I can get more in depth with talking about specifically what gear to go for and the stats and things like that. I will do a small overview of those things, but I'm not going to sit here and babysit every step of the way, simply because I assume that if you're interested in tanking at all, that you have kind of made your choice and whatnot, and leveling one up to 110, you've probably got the basics down. So I'm assuming and starting from there as far as what I'm about to talk about. Mainly, I just wanted to jump in and talk about the Paladin just a little bit. Of most of the tanks, the Paladin seems to have the lowest health, but the most active mitigation. That means I have a lot of cooldowns as a Paladin that warriors or druids or demon hunters, for example, don't necessarily have. They're a very cooldown based class because everything that you have can be reduced in cooldown time with haste. And speaking of haste, let's just kind of jump into the stats that you're looking for. Mainly, all the tanks tend to share the same things. They want a lot of armor and they want a lot of health. So, armor and stamina are very important. You can't really spec into any of those, mainly because it's not possible. You are basically getting stamina and armor just from the item level of the item itself. The higher the item level, generally, the higher the armor, the higher the strength, the higher the stamina. The idea here is what you're looking for is your secondary stats. Now, I'm not perfect when it comes to doling out this information. So if anyone in the comments wants to say, "Hey, we don't agree," or "Hey, you should go with something else. This is what I've done," feel free. Please let me know, because there are things that I'm basing my stats on and this video on that may be different than what you've read or mathematically calculated out. I'm trying to get kind of like an overview. Like I said, this is not meant for the hardcore top 1% of raiding guilds. So this is mainly if you're just a casual and you want some idea of a tank class that's really good and really fun, and you don't have a lot of gold and you don't have a lot of time to play, but you still want to kind of gear one up over time. Or maybe you just have a small group of friends, 4 or 5 of your friends, getting together and running some mythics and running Karazhan or any of the other 5-man content, which seems to be what Legion is really kind of pushing more so than the raids. The raids are there and all of that, but they seem to get blown through very quickly, especially if you've done a lot of high level mythics and gotten a lot of high level gear. But just to start out, the main two secondary stats that you're looking for is haste, some mastery, and then the rest into versatility. Haste is number one important right after your main stats of armor, strength, and stamina, because, like I said, haste reduces the cooldown of every single one of your attacks that you're going to be using, and those attacks are mainly defensive skills that you need to keep up in order to not die. So the more haste you have, the quicker your cooldowns are, and the faster that you can use these attacks. In conjunction with that, it also increases how much damage you can do. And in higher and higher level mythics, you're going to be giving up a little bit of survivability to go more DPS, because there's a time limit on higher level mythics that gets shorter and shorter. So doing high level mythic runs, you need to be more quick than basically survival based. So keep that in mind once you start pushing, but that's way later on, and I'll get to that in another video if I have to. But mainly, you're looking to get a lot of haste. You want to pretty much have as much haste on your gear as you can get. I like to go haste versatility once I've got my mastery around 16, 17, 18%. The basic cutoff for mastery, and this is different. This is just what I'm doing. Don't take this as this is the end all be all. But basically, your mastery is going to increase how much damage you can soak when you use Shield of the Righteous. Especially if you're standing in your Consecrate. As you've seen, it went from 36% damage mitigation to 44%. So you get a 20% increase in your defensive abilities and even in your healing when you're standing inside your Consecrate. Most of the moves work like that. They're buffed a little bit when you're standing on Consecrate. But as you've leveled a Paladin, you probably already know these things. But basically, when your shield is up, you want enough mastery so that when Shield of the Righteous is up, you're not able to die. Or at the very least, you're able to survive the biggest hits a boss is going to swing at you. And as that goes up, your mastery will change based on how well you think you're doing. If you need more survivability, then you're going to want to start stacking more mastery. However, once I've gotten to around, between 15 and 18%, I would say is my sweet spot, I start to stack versatility. And even though I've only got 11%, versatility is a complete damage reduction and healing and damage increase. It's just a flat amount. It goes up and up and up. It doesn't really start getting into diminishing returns. And point for point, it really does help you out because it's just a flat damage reduction. And even though it's only about 5.5%, that's still 5.5% damage right off the top that I don't have to worry about. But another big thing about versatility is that increase in my healing. You have a move, and you've probably seen it. It's called Light of the Protector. You can talent it to become Hand of the Protector, which is an instant heal that gives me back health based on how much I'm missing. So I get 33% of my missing health back. So this is very useful as an oh shit button when you take a big hit and you're reduced in your health down significantly. If you're standing in your Consecrate, you can see it's a 40% that I get back. So this is useful, of course, when you're low on health. You use this and you just mitigated basically 40% of the damage that you just took. So that is instant. It's only an 8-second cooldown, and that is reduced when you're using your Judgment and your Shield of the Righteous. So very useful to have some very good versatility and haste. And mastery is in there just so that you can survive as long as you have your defensive cooldowns up. So where can you get a lot of this gear? Well, Mythics for sure is where you're going to start getting some of this gear. World Quest when you're starting out exactly at 110. Or if you have some gold and you have some friends that are leather workers or blacksmiths, especially because it's plate, you can have them make crafted gear. You can also buy crafted gear from the auction house. It starts off as a base of item level 815. You can upgrade it to 855, and the next patch that will jump to 865 as the maximum that you can take the crafted gear. So the crafted gear will still be behind, Titan Forge stuff like 865 there, or if you get a Titan Forge out of a Mythic, I got an 865. So if you get some rolls out of your Mythics, obviously it's not going to hold up very well. But just starting out, it's really hard to get major upgrades past 855 unless you're really pushing some content, or you just get really lucky with the Titan Forge rolls. So to start off, you can pretty much, if you get all these slots, basically as all, even your trinkets and your rings can be crafted, and you can equip as many as you want. There's no limit like it used to be. And if you get them all to 855, you'll be ready to just basically start off with Mythic 2s or 3s or 4s. I mean, at my gear level, I can probably take on Mythic 6s and 7s with some difficulty, but not very much difficulty at all. And obviously doing World Quests and all that content gives you a chance to get something like this, your legendary rings or whatever you would want. Hopefully, this is just the basic, everybody got it, but this ring is actually getting buffed, so it's not too bad because it gives you haste. Every 30 seconds I get a 15% haste increase, which reduces all of my cooldowns to basically 3 seconds or so, and that's a huge boost for me, at least as a paladin. Now keep in mind that this isn't perfect, but this gear is keeping pace steadily as the patches go on. The crafted gear does get a higher and higher boost. It's never, like I said, going to max out to like 910 like this ring, but it will stay kind of relevant, I think, through the patch. I think that's a good thing for the game to get the crafted gear to a point where it's actually still pretty damn useful, and it remains useful. So the best advantage the crafted gear has is you can get the exact stats that you want. There are multiple versions of every one of these pieces and in these slots, and they can all roll. Like that's a fever flare, so that's haste and mastery on that, and all this is the roar, so it's haste and versatility. So you can pick your poison when it comes to the crafted gear, especially if there's a lot on the auction house or you have friends that can craft it for you. You can pretty much mix and match your stats and get them to a point where you've got the exact stats that you want. And if you try to get gear out of mythics, on the other hand, a lot of the gear in the mythics and the raids I've noticed don't have very good stats necessarily for prot pallies. They might have, like, say, mastery and versatility, which is good, but you really need haste to be your forefront. And very few things I've noticed in the loot tables have haste plus versatility or haste and mastery. It's usually something like haste and crit, or maybe it has like a dodge or a extra parry or something on there. That's all useful, but not as useful as it could be. So in some situations, the crafted gear will probably hold you over for quite a while. I'll be pointing out in another video how you can get this crafted gear a little bit quicker and easier, and how to get it upgraded, especially if you're just hitting 110 and you need some help getting geared up pretty quick. I'll hopefully be able to do that in another video, and we'll move on from there. Moving on to the talents. Now, I'm not going to go into super detail about what all these talents are. You've probably played around with them as you've been leveling, and you've probably picked your favorite ones or not. So I'm basically just going to show you the ones that I have picked and why I picked them. And if anyone wants me to go into more detail and actually go through and explain all of these, I will. Just leave a comment down below, and I'll make it happen. So starting off, Blessed Hammer. You throw a hammer, it swings around you a few times, and everything that it hits, you take 15% less damage on their next auto attack. Very good as far as I'm concerned for a lot of mythic runs and runs that have lots of trash, because the hammer will hit multiple targets. And you have a talent that's a passive talent called Grand Crusader, that when this Blessed Hammer hits, it has a high chance to reset the cooldown on your Avenger's Shield. And I'll get to why that's important in a few minutes. But basically, I go with Blessed Hammer because A, it's quick, B, it has 3 charges, so you can constantly throw this thing out and almost always have at least 1 charge up. It hits multiple times as it swings around you, and it hits multiple targets, reducing the damage that they do to you on their attacks. So always useful. First Avenger, Avenger's Shield now deals 50% more damage to the first target it hits. The Grand Crusader has an additional 10% chance to occur. So basically what Avenger's Shield and why it's important. This is the shield that you will throw out, and it ricochets between a couple of targets. You can increase the number of targets that it ricochets to, and there are 2 skills on your artifact weapon that enhance Avenger's Shield. The first is that when you throw the shield out, every target that it bounces and hits does a small AoE explosion around that target, so you're doing more damage to things in tight packs. That's useful for aggro and just pure damage. It's not a lot of damage, but it does add up over the course of a fight. The second thing that it does is every target that it hits and it does damage, half the damage that's done gives you an absorption shield. And that is really important because the Grand Crusader talent has a chance to reset the cooldown on your Avenger's Shield. So you got these hammers swinging around you and an AoE around you, and if you're tanking multiple targets and it's hitting all of those targets, it's really rare to not get a constant proc of Grand Crusader, which gives you instantly Avenger's Shield right back off cooldown. So there are times where I cannot throw Avenger's Shield faster than it actually resets the cooldown. And when you do that, all that damage starts to stack into your shield. So there is no diminishing returns that I've seen based on the shield. I've had this shield that Avenger's Shield does give me. The absorption has been over 1,000,000 damage, and that's pretty significant, especially when you're doing high level mythics and stuff is starting to really hit pretty hard. So very useful talent as far as I'm concerned. Moving on, Blinding Light. This is a pseudo interrupt. It works even on bosses. That might be a bug and they might take that away, but for now it does work. It's basically an AoE that just blinds everything within 10 yards. Very useful for saving your healers if mobs get on them and you're not able to get there fast enough, and your consecrate's on cooldown or your Avenged Shield's not up, it's hard to grab multiple things at once on the Paladin without those two cooldowns. But this will basically, you can run in the middle, do a big explosion that hits everything, makes them dazed, and then you can drop a consecrate and get aggro back from whatever it seems to be beating on your healers or even your squishy DPS. Cavalier, Divine Steed now has 2 charges. Paladin mobility is not exactly the greatest. You generally only have Divine Steed, and Divine Steed is a 45-second cooldown. It gives you 100% more movement speed for 3 seconds, which is good, but the problem with that is it's a long cooldown, and this gives you 2 charges of it to use for mobility and just getting through dungeon runs quicker, or moving a boss, or getting the hell out of a bad spot. If you misjudge an AoE, for example, you can get out of it, especially even if it's a slow effect or something that's on you. This will generally get you out of trouble, and getting 2 charges of it is just really useful to me. Moving down, Hand of the Protector. It takes Light of the Protector, gives it a shorter cooldown, and allows you to cast it on yourself or somebody else that's in need of healing. It does the same thing that I pointed out a while ago. It heals 33% of a target's missing health. This is your oh shit button. It's the most efficient heal in the game right now. It costs you nothing and heals you obviously more and more the lower your health is. So I really don't think there's much else in this tier that I would take, to be honest. Knight Templar goes good if you take Cavalier for a 20% damage reduction, and Final Stand is useful if there's a lot of stuff that you need to absorb hits from, but I'm sticking with Hand of the Protector, at least for now. Moving on down, Consecrated Ground. Anyone that stands in my area of effect, my Consecrate, is healed every second for about 2600 damage. This can actually critically hit, and if it does anywhere between 5400 to 6500 heal, like you just saw up there in the top left. It healed me for 5200 damage. This is just a trickle. It's not going to save anybody's life, but it could potentially mitigate some slow dots or some kind of damage that happens every few seconds, but it's a constant damage. My group has a lot of melee, so the couple of melee we have, they can stand on my Consecrate. They'll be standing in it all the time, especially if I'm tanking the boss. They're going to stand on the boss's ass and have a constant source of healing. Judgment of Light basically does the same thing, except it also allows ranged people to heal because it puts a debuff on the monster that we're attacking. So either one of these would still be good, but I'm taking Consecrated Ground, at least for now. And the final talents, Righteous Protector. Shield of the Righteous reduces the remaining cooldown on Light of the Protector and Avenging Wrath by 3 seconds. Now, Avenging Wrath is a cooldown that you want to use every once in a while, either at the start of a fight or maybe if this fight is dragging on, because it increases your damage and your healing by 20%. Now, what's nice about this, more than Avenging Wrath's cooldown being reduced, is that when I use Shield of the Righteous, and you're going to use it, it is a survivability cooldown. It reduces the cooldown on your Light of the Protector and Hand of the Protector. So my cooldown on that is, 8 seconds starting ticking down. Every time I use shield, it takes 3 seconds off. So if I have to heal in quick succession, you can use 2 Righteous Protector, the Shield of the Righteous. You can use Shield of the Righteous twice in succession. Especially if you have 3 stacks already, you just go bam, bam, and your heal is instantly back up. So if I need a mega heal, and I know I'm going to need a couple of them really quick, and my healer's getting swarmed and I need to help him out, that is something that I enjoy having. The other 2 are obviously situational and depend a lot on your gear and what you're fighting. Seraphim, I've been told, is actually really good. But you're giving up some of your defensive cooldowns to have a buff that does indeed help you out quite a bit. But again, this is just what I'm going with for now. This is what works for me and my group at the moment. All of this is going to be subject to change if they buff or nerf different talents in the trees. And if they do, I'll probably make a video and make sure that everyone is aware of that. So that is, in a nutshell, what the Paladin is about. If you've leveled a Paladin, you know kind of what your moves are and how you go about tanking. But that is more or less just an overview for people that have never tanked. I myself have only been with this character for a couple of months now. I'm learning to tank, and we're doing good as my little group. Like I said, we're not hardcore, we're not raiders. I used to raid and I quit a long time ago, but the 5-in content we're doing pretty well in. I've done Mythic 4 tanking with no problem. I know I can go up to 6 or 7. We're just working on it before the holidays hit, and then we've kind of taken a break for the holidays. We got through about half of Karazhan on our very first time that we went in there with almost no knowledge of the fights or how to do any of the tanking. So it's kind of learn on the fly, and it's a lot of fun. It's challenging and it's fun. Like I said, we're going at our own pace, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be showing you is about casual playing of World of Warcraft. So if you are a casual, this is something that I'm hoping will help out people that don't want to be on the forefront top 1% of the raids and just want to have a little bit of fun with their friends. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you want to see me go into a lot more depth, I can go into depth about all the talents and the gear. I'm pretty much going to leave that up to all of you guys and gals out there in the comments. If you have questions, I can answer it even in the comments. If you have questions or would like to see a video of me doing some tanking, I can get that up once my group gets back together after the holidays are over. And I'm hoping to show you all a video on how to kind of gear up, and it's not specifically for the Paladin, but using the crafted gear and getting a lot of leather to craft gear, and getting a lot of Obliterum and Blood of Sagaras so you can upgrade all your crafted gear. I've got a little video showing a couple of places and a couple of methods that I think will help out with that, and just in general for every single class, as I said. But if you have any other questions, leave it down in the comments. If I can answer it, I will. If it takes a video to answer the question, I can make a video and do that too. If you enjoyed the video, press the like button down below. It does help out my channel. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, you can click down at the bottom of your screen right now. And that'll get you hooked up every time that I upload a new video. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. Take care, and I'll talk to you all next time.